I didn't learn my lesson from the last episode, and since I'm taping all of these back to back, I thought I would just make my life even harder. But yeah, welcome back to October Nights. I'm officially doing this upside down now because I'm trying to keep some visual interest, especially in the last episode before this becomes a podcast for a bit. Mind you, a video podcast. I don't know why I'm belaboring the point, because we're about to talk about the movie. I didn't actually cue up the poster. Oh god, everything's falling apart. Why is it so hard to operate an iPad? We're talking about the movie Christine. I think you can tell I'm not kidding because my glasses are literally falling off my face. Christine came out in 1983 and is directed by one of my favorite directors, John Carpenter, who did the original Halloween movie, The Fog, They Live, which is also one of my favorite sci-fi films of all time. 10 out of 10, love the guy. He makes crazy movies, and Christine is an adaptation of a Stephen King novel, so it's nice to see him throwing his hat in that ring as well, because I love Stephen King as well, so combining a director I love and a writer I love just feels like a match made in heaven. And frankly, as many things as Carpenter has to change to make this work in terms of a movie, it's actually really cool, and I really love how they just destroyed a bunch of Plymouth Furies to make this movie. Part of it hurts my soul because it's such a nice looking car, but the other part is just like, they did it practically. They just absolutely decimated these cars, and it's so cool. It looks real, and it's because it is. The 80s were an age where special effects were still very real, and that's why I think I love things like this. Christine is a film from a bygone era, and it feels that way in every sense of the word. The music's great. It's got a killer soundtrack, and totally prototypical, 80s thing in movies is having a great soundtrack, and, John Carpenter is no stranger to that. He makes great music. He co-composes the score here with his associate Alan Haworth, who also worked with him on the Halloween 3 score, which is fantastic, and also in a movie that is super underrated. Yeah, Haworth also works with Carpenter on several of his other films and is a great composer in his own right. All of my brain cells are dying as I do this. There's plenty of things here that clearly feel like quintessential Stephen King in terms of like dialogue and things like that, but it also has this very Carpenter approach in terms of cinematography. So the free-floating camera that we had back in Halloween in 1978 is super present here as well, though this is a much more polished movie. This feels much more studio, and in a good way. I mean that. The special effects are top-notch. Obviously, they had to do a lot of cheaper tricks back with Halloween that still work effectively today, and the fact that they were able to, make a car seem like it was driving on its own and mowing down and killing people, a car that, for whatever reason had a mind of its own, is a super interesting idea. And the way that they were able to go about making a car by itself seem menacing is genuinely amazing. And I don't know how they did it, but it's super effective. And I'm gonna sit on the floor now and try to get, blood going back to the normal spots, because this is starting to make me feel really bad. All in one take, baby. For those of you who don't know, Christine is the story about a young man by the name of Arnie, who's kind of a nerdy kid who has a friend on the football team, but is largely, he's in the lower strata of a high school, and so he doesn't get a whole lot of attention from the girls, or doesn't really have a whole lot of friends either. And I think the only reason he's friends with this football player is that they've been friends for their entire lives, so what would be the point in stopping now? And then something happens. Arnie happens across an old Plymouth Fury that is being sold by a crazy old man for just, $100 or so. And it seems like a deal that's just too good to be true. And quickly over the events of the film, we realize that it is too good to be true. The previous owner of the car had not only lost his wife and daughter in the car due to choking and smoke inhalation, the previous owner himself had committed suicide inside the car. If that isn't dark enough, I don't know what is. But none of this, stops Arnie from wanting to buy the car, because he really wants something that is his own and that he can have and effectively have some sort of freedom in his life and have some sort of win. And sure enough, after fixing up the car at a local body shop, it starts to work. He gets a girlfriend and things start to look up for him. But Arnie seems a little bit different. His relationship with this car seems to be getting a little bit out of hand. And quickly we start to realize that this is a relationship that has some jealousy, and it doesn't even seem like Arnie is the one with all the jealousy, though. If it's even possible for a car to be jealous of an actual human being, Christine, which is what the car's name is, does seem to have that. Scary things seem to happen around this car for inexplicable reasons, and they only seem to get darker after a gang of people who really hate Arnie, some bullies from the local high school, decide to absolutely destroy the car. Soon enough, the bullies seem to be picked off one by one while Arnie is conveniently not around. And his Plymouth Fury seems to fix itself nearly overnight. So it seems like some dark things are going on here. And in typical Stephen King fashion, things go really out of control really fast. Combine that with John Carpenter's fantastic flair, specifically his run in the 80s that is so great. Some veteran character actors, even a role by Harry Dean Stanton, and the magical realism of Stephen King, and you've got yourself a winning picture. Christine is a lot of fun, with great music and killer special effects. This is a tense movie, and it has some amazing performances. Of course, it does have some very Stephen King-y dialogue, but that's the price of admission. You get a great story, and sometimes you have some things that just don't seem like real people should be trying to say. But it works. These characters, these actors tend to sell it pretty well. And this leads to explosive results, and I do mean that in the best way possible. So if by some reason you haven't checked out Christine yet from 1983, this is a John Carpenter movie that I highly recommend finding a way to watch. And it's a great fit for the holiday season. So I hope you take time to check this one out. But regardless, we'll be back again tomorrow with yet another pick. I hope you've been enjoying these so far, but I've been your host and curator for these October nights, and I've only got one thing left to say. Sweet dreams.